Hello, everyone. Let's start, and hopefully we will continue with this. At the moment, the coronavirus is pretty prevalent in this part of the country, the east. Hopefully, everybody is sound, safe, and sound. All right. Let's continue with our pursuit of truth, and we'll take over from last time. All right, last time I basically outlined the epistemological part of the philosophy studies. I mentioned particularly 6 big figures of philosophers. They are Parmenides, Plato, Augustine, Kant, Hegel, and Heidegger. I pick up the 6, if you will. Maybe Instancology will be the 7th. So we have the 7 as a circle. Okay, we start from the Parmenides language studies. Whatever is in language is being, till the circle complete, ending in Heidegger. Heidegger's ontological Dasein, being then and there, from the point of view of humans, how he sees the world. Okay, that's basically what we want to inherit from this point on for instancology. Okay, if you are familiar with this picture, we can keep going. All right. Well, before we go to the instancology, the ontological part, the absolute, or double A, if you will, let me say a few things about the topic. Life versus the absolute. That's our topic. As in the past, I still write it down here first. Okay, the same the topic here. Life and the absolute, and the subtitle, relative versus absolute. This is the second part, by the way. You may put it 2 here. All right. Okay, I want to say a few things about the life. What does this one has of life to do with life? You may wonder. All right. I think I mentioned this my concept or my belief in life is the value of life or the essence of a human being is something like this. If you haven't heard of it, you may take notice, okay? And hopefully it makes sense to you. First, you have the physical needs, all right? First stage, physical needs. What is that? You want to be useful, all right? You need to make food, to make a living for yourself, to support yourself, and for your family, for your wife, for your kids. That's called the physical needs. Food is for your stomach, for your body, and the generation for your family, all right, to go on. That's your hope in future. Okay, so physical needs. And the second part for life, you probably need something called psychological needs. All right, you want to be satisfied. You want to have the community remember you. All right, like the group, like your friends, families, or whatever, the community have something to remember you as a human being. All right, a lot of people are doing that. In China, I can think about the guy called Huo Yindong, right? He's a rich guy in Hong Kong, and later on became the sort of like a vice chairman for the National People's Congress, or something to that effect. In the West, in the United States, we have the Michael Bloomberg, all right? He wanted to be the president. He runs, but he didn't get it. And we also have Donald Trump. They all from the business world. Why do they have money, right? They have a reputation. They have everything they want to. Why do they want to serve the country? You believe that's purely for the public goods? Well, maybe partly, but mostly to me, they want to satisfy the psychological needs. All right, they want the community remember them in future. That's called a psychological satisfaction. All right. The last one is spiritual needs. Spiritual needs is purely for yourself, for your brain, for your mind, for you as a human being. That's called a spiritual needs. All right, it's mental. It's not for other people, not for your family, not for your kids. It has nothing to do with others. That's the true essence of you, yourself, as an entity in this world of spatial, temporal, two-dimension world. All right? You will satisfy the needs of your mind, your spiritual needs. I know a lot of people who don't even come to this stage. Regarding the stage, I may say, for the first one, physical, you may do it before 40. The age of 40, I think that's good. If you can, try to finish it before 40, all right? And for the second, the psychological one, hopefully before 50, you can finish it. All right? After the last one, spiritual one, mental one is 60. How long can you live after 60? Another 60 years? Probably less, right? And 30 years, if you have good luck. So most people below 100, you will go to see God, right? So 60, 40, 50, 60. All right. Only this part I consider is truly the essence of a human being. That's distinguish you yourself from a pig's life, from an animal's life. You are uniquely different from everything else. Life or no life. That's only when you come to this part, spiritual, that's your mental needs. You started to wonder what the 4 questions the ancient Greeks asked before. Who I am. You want to answer this question? What I should behave in this world? Where do I come from? Where is this world? What is made of this world? And these kind of questions, you start to think. That's the highest point of being a human. All right? You are not a tool. You don't want to be useful all your life. You want to know it. You want to be aware of something. All right? That's a fundamental, ultimate satisfaction for your mind, for your spirit. Okay? So if you can reach this part, congratulations. Otherwise, well, you know, when the pig plays in the mud, he's happy, right? He's happily playing in the mud. He will never ever think about one day he'll be the meat, be the dinner for humans. He won't think. It won't think about that. It's the same thing for humans, or so-called humans. When you satisfy your useful life, physical needs, you are no different than a pig's life. Trust me. Same thing. That's called a physical needs. You got a lot of money, right? The pig got a lot of food. What's the difference? Psychological needs, maybe you are a little bit different. Like a pig, maybe he plays better than other pigs. Other pigs will follow him. So, if other people follow you, you are a leader, sort of a president, well, that's what it is. No more than that. So, the ultimate, the fundamental needs for the spirit, for the mind, it's mental. That's the ultimate hallmark of being a human. So you have to remember this. Try to come to this stage in the pursuit of truth. Whatever matters eventually is the truth. When you know the truth, you can die. You can go to see God. All right? In Chinese, we say there's something like 朝闻道, meaning if I die at night, that's okay, right? It's something like that too. So this is the same principle here listed. All right. So the life, the value system, it should be of these 3 parts. You should think about that. As I said before, philosophy is something that will question your value system in the past. What you think, that's the way life should be. But philosophy, when you study it, it will come into conflict with what you believe. I gave you some food of thought to think in future. And who see what's the reason. Why somebody think this way other than what you used to think, to believe. Okay? Hopefully you get the point. Okay, Now let's go on with our the trend going downward to the ontology of Instancology. For this part, we want to say this. I first want to say, how did I get this? I give you a brief picture. How did I come to this? How did I arrive at this conclusion? How did I discover the truth, the ultimate truth, or I call it the absolute truth? How did I get to this point? All right. It started pretty early, but I want to cut it short. I want to say when it's very obvious to me. That is when I was in college. Of course, I had a lot of thoughts about everything else, especially the philosophy or whatever, As a young man at that time, I'm thinking about future, thinking about my field, thinking about what should I do with my life. In college too. At that time, I pretty believe I can do everything I want to. I know some my classmates went on to study economics, went on to study business, went on to be a journalist. Many different fields, for a language major, as one our teacher told us, that you either use language as a tool or you serve a tool for others. You don't use it, you be a tool for others. That's all the language majors do. For me, I thought about this for quite a while. I think if I want to learn it, I can learn it in a few years. But I just hesitated for a long time, actually for over 1 year and a half, as what to do in future after graduation or for in the last year, the senior years of a college life. When I was thinking about that, one day, or maybe a few days, I particularly noticed something very odd to me. That is, when I'm reading some books, reading some whatever it is, I suddenly noticed in front of me there are some images. I slightly noticed, but I'm thinking something else. But I cannot always remember that, to notice it, to be aware of it. When I'm thinking deep in my thought about something else, I forgot it. Otherwise, I can remember it. Let's say my glass in front of my face. All right, I can be aware of it only when I'm not thinking something else. If I'm thinking about something else deeply, I cannot be aware I'm wearing the glass or the glass in front of me. I notice this phenomenon. Try it yourself. If you are listening to what I'm saying, can you notice the image in front of you or your face, like glass or something else? You probably not. But only when you notice that, notice the images in front of you, you are not listening to what I'm saying. That's probably true. But what this told me? It told me my mind can concentrate on one thing only. Of course, I mean something deep, not superficially, like you are driving when you are listening to music, not that kind of a monitoring thing. I mean, deeply in thought. Let's say you cannot solve a mathematical problem and noticing something else. This puzzle took me like a half year to figure out what's happening, until one day I suddenly realized what's going on. To put it short, my conclusion is the mind has two functions, two unique functions. They are both carried in thoughts. One is logical function, the other is consciousness. The logical function is used whenever you solve a problem, step by step. Let's say you do a mathematical problem, or you think about the strategy to implement some plan or project, that kind of thing. That's called a logical step. The other one is consciousness. That is, you are aware of this, where this logical steps go. It's sort of like the relationship between engine and the captain. The captain tells where the ship goes, and the first officer controls the engine to go that way. So two things, all right? They have some coordination, of course. But basically, the relationship is like that. I noticed that. And further, after I noticed the uniqueness of each feature, I also discovered each of the function, either its logic or its consciousness, is endless. You can go whenever you can. If you have time and energy, you can go. Nobody can ever stop. Nothing can stop you. So it's limitless in the world. Of course, if you don't have food, if you're hungry, you stop thinking, or stop to be conscious of something else. That is a different matter. What I'm thinking is, as long as you function well, your brain, your mind, your body function well, it has no end in sight. So this uniqueness, this limitedness, is a foundation from what I discovered the function of our brain relating to the world or to the absolute. And also, the third feature I discovered is this function of endless capability of searching is a part of the universal absoluteness, which is beyond us. We just got a part of it. It's in our brain, in every human being's brain. For this part of the absolute, I call it localized absolute. It gave you enough or endless power to let you either do logical work or to be conscious of something. I also did a proof of it. Let's say, how do we prove that the logic is endless? Okay. We say in philosophy, the philosopher Kant once said, the noumenon is the limit of our knowing. We cannot go beyond the noumenon because that's a self-propelled entity. We know nothing about it. That's Kant's assumption. Okay? Then Hegel goes against it. Hegel says, if you know its limit, if you are aware of its limit, you must be beyond its limit already. Otherwise, how do you know its limit? Does this sound reasonable? You probably have to say yes. If you know this river is the limit of your property, and you are aware of the other side of the river, it's beyond you ownership, correct? So you know the other side already. It's the same is here. And the same thing for the consciousness. If you say you're aware of something, there's a limit, you can never be aware of or conscious of. Tell me what it is. See if I can be aware of it or conscious of that something. I bet you cannot, because as soon as you let me know, I'm aware of it already. I know it already. So it's self-defeating, right? So these two proofs will tell you that it's limitless, it's endless. It goes without limitation. Fortunately, in ourselves, everybody's brain power of this ultimate absolute functionality is limited only by our physical needs or limitation. Let's say you are hungry, you need to go to sleep, you have some other physical needs, you cannot use the brain all the time or endlessly, right? You have to stop. One day you will die, then it ends. But as a group, as a collectively extension of the human race, it can go on for quite a long time. At least it goes with the matters around us that long, right? But the point is the function of ultimate absolute, I call it absolute, capability. And another proof I can tell you is also, you can see from this point, it's a self-reflection. You can see yourself to form a circle. You can posit the image in your mind, whatever it is, include yourself. This complete circle as a human being is pretty unique. Other than human being, no other animals ever have the concept of ego. or I or myself what I should do. They never ever had this idea. This is a feature of having absolute in you. Only you know that. You can make a determination. You are master of yourself. Your will, your desire, what you are willing to do. You are not controlled by something else. That's why when people commit a crime, the society will punish them for what they are doing. They won't blame because of the environment force you to commit a crime. Then you are guiltless, right? No, you are responsible because you are the master. You have the brain. That is the ultimate, absolute decision maker. That will make you responsible for what you are doing, what you choose to do, what your decision is. Okay? So that's the case. Okay, by this point, that's basically what I have this idea of absolute coming from. From an individual like myself, and go on, expand into eventually come to the ultimate reality that is absolutely absolute. I want to put down the categories or the divisions of the four combination. Basically, Instancology has two worlds. One is called micro world, the other called macro world. All right, two worlds, macro world and the macro world. Pretty similar, very hard for the Chinese to tell the difference. What do I mean by macro world? Basically, in the terminology of relativity of the physics, I can say anything that is in the realm of two-dimensional spatial and temporal world belongs to this group. Whatever if it's in the space, if it's in time, it's in the macro world. All right, it's clear, right? We all live in the macro world. For the micro world, it is a world of without the spatial temporal dimensions. You may question me, is there anything like that? Is there a world like that? Good question. Yes. My answer is it's a very obvious. Think about what you are dreaming at night. Do your dream have 2 dimensions in it? Does a dream have space or time in it? Remember, be careful. The word in it, not from outside observer, all right? Not as an observer out of it, no. In it, in your brain. You probably say it's not. Because when you dream about, let's say, Everest, or you dream about a pin, there's no difference. You don't feel your brain will break when you dream something big, spatially, right? And same thing for the time. You don't have a sequence of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like hours by hours, or days by days, or years by years. It's mixed. You can come suddenly to any point in time. Actually, it's what you remembered during the day in this 2-dimensional micro world here. Okay? And also in quantum mechanics, we know some elements, basic elements, did not exist till some certain conditions creates it. Otherwise, you just cannot see it. You just cannot detect it in the spatial temporal world, like the God's particle. Although some scientists already calculated it should exist, but before the collider have it bumped, all the elements to produce it, where is it? It's in the other world, in the micro world. All right? Also for this world, I have other definitions. I have several categories. If you sort of a philosophy oriented, you may search more. Like I call it in Chinese, I call it 在. It's a potential existence, like a being existence, like definite being, or like thinking, or I call it a 实在. All right, but here I don't want to go into those categories. These 5 categories. I just want to go directly to the ontology of the instancology. Okay, so for this one we have, as in the epistemology of instancology, we also have 4 divisions. Okay, similar, we may have a table, 2 by 2, 4. Relative absolute on the top, relative absolute on the side. So relative relatively relative or relatively relative. We call double R. All right, it's this guy. And then we say absolutely relative. We say absolutely relative is in this one. And for this one, we have relative, absolute, and the last one, of course, absolutely absolute. All right, that's basically as we did in epistemology. I want to briefly say the definition for these four categories. All right. For the double R, relatively relative, that's what humans are doing. By that, I mean, let's say we produced a car, an internet, an airplane. That's relatively relative. We modified the elements, not only by combination, but we try to manipulate to form something to our needs. All right, that's a good part. But also, it has a bad part, relatively relative. We know humans can be evil, right? Like Adolf Hitler can do bad things. Relatively relative can be more than animal world are able to do. Humans can have genocide, can have a mass destruction, but animal world don't. Human can torture other human or animals, but animals don't torture. They eat others just for survival of their own life. So the relatively relative can be two ways. You have to notice, because of the twist, because of the human endeavors inserted in human, your action take bigger responsibilities. It can go either way, good or bad. If it's good, it's better than animals can do, other animals can do. If it's worse, it's evil that animals can do. Okay? This part, absolutely relative. By this part, I mean the things humans cannot touch or haven't touched. Let's say black hole, light years away, a galaxy, like a Magellan constellation, that sort of thing. All right, that's absolutely relative. By relative, I mean they can be changed or they have limitation. Okay? For this one, relatively absolute. By this one, it's in this macro world. That's the truth. Let's say the universal law of gravity. Let's say the general relativity theory. Let's say what you dreamed of. You have a thought. You feel the mathematics is the embodiment of a truth. That all are in this relatively absolute. It's absolute, but in a way it's relative. So it's relatively absolute. Okay? In this realm, there is no spatial temporal dimension. It's not in our world we see it, but we do know it exists. Like our dreams do exist. All right? And of course, the last one, absolutely absolute. This one is beyond everything. It's even beyond the language. Language has its limitations. So you cannot say what it is even. Because language can never completely describe it. Because it's not things, not matter, not something positive or negative. No, it's a background, it's a foundation, it's something which produced the positive and the negative. If you say something that's positive, we know we have matter, we have antimatter, we have a positive, we have negative. We have something, we have nothing. But this absolutely absolute is entirely different from what we know. It's a foundation. So think about this. Okay, this is a brief description of what these are, what the ontology of Instancology is. From the perspective of a non-philosopher, ordinary human being's point of view. And the next time I'll talk about what's the meaning, what's the significance, what's the consequence. We want to know this. Know your theory. Well, why should I know it? Does it help me in any way? You may wonder. For philosophers, this is an advance of ontology. From Heidegger's being onward. It goes beyond anything. It's beyond even language. Remember what Wittgenstein once said? If you cannot say it clearly, don't say it. Shut up. Be silent. Well, the question is, you may shut up, but whatever there is still there. How can you express it? You don't use language to express it? What do you use? What else can you do that? Music? Dance? Picture? Make drawing? Well, I don't know if it's perfect or not, but that's something, right? If it's something, it's relative. If it's relative, it cannot describe absolute. Period. So think about this. This is the last one. Double A is the last one, the most important concept in this ontology of instancology. All right, next time I'll talk about more about the significance of the discovery. Okay, thanks everybody. See you next time.